The enigma of the self-aware mind. Visualize this. You suddenly regain awareness, suspended in the endless void of outer space. No physical form, no earth beneath you, no stars or sun, just your awareness, your internal thoughts, and the recollection of past events. Everything you believe you've experienced, your upbringing, your first romantic connection, even what you ate earlier today, could potentially be nothing more than a coincidental configuration of atoms, crafting artificial recollections within a spontaneously manifested consciousness. This unsettling notion is known as the Boltzmann brain paradox, and it's poised to make you question the very essence of reality. In the late 19th century, a physicist named Ludwig Boltzmann was deeply immersed in the study of entropy, the principle that all systems tend toward disorder. Think of entropy like your living space. It's far simpler for a tidy room to descend into chaos than for it to spontaneously clean itself. The universe behaves in a similar fashion, but here's where the concept turns perplexing. Within an eternal cosmos, one with limitless duration, every event, no matter how unlikely, must eventually occur. Just as 1,000 monkeys with typewriters, given infinite time, would inevitably produce the complete works of Shakespeare, so too could atoms aimlessly drifting through the cosmos eventually form coherent, structured patterns. Now imagine two different possibilities. First scenario, our entire known universe, encompassing trillions of galaxies, innumerable stars, and the entirety of human history, originated from the Big Bang and developed over 13.8 billion years to culminate in your present perception. Second scenario, a lone mind, composed of all the correct neural links to replicate your awareness and memories, emerged spontaneously from randomly dispersed matter in the vastness of space. Here's where the discomfort sets in. Based on probabilistic principles, scenario 2 is significantly more plausible. It requires far fewer particles to randomly align in a way that creates one conscious brain than it does to form an entire complex universe. Picture it this way. You're building with Lego blocks in a weightless environment. Which outcome is statistically more probable if the blocks float and collide at random? A small model house or a fully developed city? Clearly, the house. In the same way, generating a single functioning mind requires fewer coincidental alignments than creating an entire cosmos. But this leads us into a deeper dilemma. If Boltzmann brains are mathematically more probable than genuine universes, and if we accept that our current awareness feels like reality, doesn't it follow that it's more likely we ourselves are Boltzmann brains, not actual human beings? Each memory you hold, every relationship you've experienced, every event you've lived through, could merely be the result of atomic randomness, firing in just the right way to simulate a life. Some thinkers propose that this paradox exposes a core error in how we interpret probability and existence. Others believe it hints at profound insights about awareness and reality. Maybe, just maybe, we are all fleeting ideas within a grander collective mind, or perhaps our current comprehension of cosmological chance needs a serious overhaul. As you slip into sleep tonight, reflect on this. Whether you're an isolated, spontaneously generated consciousness, or a sentient being navigating an immense universe, your thoughts, emotions, and perceptions are completely real to you, here and now. This thought experiment doesn't just shake our grip on what's real, it urges us to marvel at the magnificent puzzle of awareness itself. Ultimately, one reassuring conclusion may remain. If you are a Boltzmann brain that blinked into being, there's no way to ever confirm or deny it. So you may as well cherish the reality you're living, whether it's an illusion or not. The conscious imitation. Exploring the mindless mind. Suppose someone behaves exactly like a conscious person, responding to situations, showing emotion, speaking and acting in familiar ways. But internally, there's nothing. No mental presence, no emotion, no thinking, no awareness, only performance without actual experience. In essence, what if this individual were what philosophers call a consciousness mimic, more technically known as a philosophical zombie? This intellectually puzzling thought experiment raises a striking question. Can an entity exist that is outwardly indistinguishable from a human being, yet inwardly devoid of any conscious experience? The idea of the philosophical zombie was introduced by philosopher David Chalmers as part of his investigations into consciousness and what is famously known as the hard problem, the difficulty of explaining why and how we have inner experiences at all. This hypothesis provides a thought-provoking framework for examining not just what consciousness is, but why it might exist at all. To grasp this concept more clearly, let's start with the fundamentals. These so-called consciousness mimics would act indistinguishably from humans. They'd chuckle at funny stories, shy away from pain, and deliberate before making choices, just as we do. However, unlike real humans, they wouldn't actually feel anything. Their actions would be entirely automatic, like an advanced machine mimicking emotion without ever actually experiencing it. If you told one something astonishing, it might appear surprised, gasping, or showing expression, but that reaction wouldn't be tied to any internal sensation. No true astonishment, no subjective awareness, just hollow imitation. The relevance of this concept lies in the challenge it poses to our understanding of mind and perception. Why do conscious experiences even exist? When we encounter something beautiful, such as a vivid sunset, we don't merely react, we feel something, a sense of wonder. But from a functional standpoint, could we survive just fine without this internal perception, responding like complex automatons? This takes us to the core question behind the hard problem of consciousness. What purpose does subjective experience serve? A helpful analogy involves computers. Imagine one machine that solves math problems silently, and another that solves them while playing a cheerful melody each time it finishes a calculation. The music doesn't influence the outcome, it's merely a sensory byproduct. Philosophers question whether our inner life, our sense of awareness, might function the same way, an unnecessary extra, not essential to our survival. Now let's ground this in a scenario. Picture a person named Alex walking through the woods. Suddenly a snake slithers onto the path. Instinctively, Alex's body reacts, heart racing, muscles tensing, eyes locking onto the danger. But here's the twist. Does Alex need to feel fear in order to survive this encounter? From a mechanical standpoint, perhaps not. All that's required is a sequence of physical responses. A philosophical zombie could exhibit all the same behaviors, jumping back, appearing afraid, running, without ever experiencing actual fear. The reactions would be identical, yet the inner reality would be absent. Chalmers and others who explore this theory ask what consciousness truly contributes. Why feel fear at all? Is awareness just an evolutionary fluke, or does it serve a higher function? One of the theory's most profound implications is how it undermines physicalism, the idea that everything about the mind can be explained through physical processes alone. If an entity could mimic every aspect of human behavior without being conscious, it suggests that consciousness might be something beyond mere biology. This leads some to believe that awareness might not be reducible to brain activity. It could be a separate aspect of existence altogether. Perhaps consciousness is a fundamental component of reality itself, like time or space, rather than an emergent property of neural complexity. Others, however, reject the idea entirely. They argue that true human-like behavior can't exist without inner awareness. To them, every decision, every social interaction, and every emotional display is intrinsically tied to being conscious. From this angle, the idea of a perfect mimic without awareness is incoherent, a logical puzzle without any connection to how living beings actually function.
What makes this notion so captivating is how it mirrors the riddle of our own experience. We know we're conscious because we feel thoughts, sensations, and emotions, yet explaining what awareness really is remains an unsolved mystery. The philosophical zombie concept highlights this paradox. Consciousness cannot be directly observed or measured. Even if scientists examined a brain in perfect detail, mapping every neuron and every chemical signal, they still wouldn't know what that individual feels inside. This invites a deep.
The Dreamer's Illusion, a journey between worlds. As he dozes off under a tree, the wind gently rustling the leaves, he slips into a vivid dream. In it, he is a butterfly, gliding effortlessly through the sky, basking in the warmth of sunlight, perceiving the world through hues that are soft and brilliant. In this dream state, he is nothing but a butterfly. He senses only the freedom of flight and the calm of drifting with the wind. But then he wakes, once more a man. The dream vanishes, but a perplexing thought lingers in his mind. Was he a man dreaming he was a butterfly? Or is he now a butterfly imagining he is a man? This ancient tale, known as the butterfly dream paradox, is attributed to the Chinese thinker Zhuangzi, who lived around the 4th century BCE. Zhuangzi's dream raises one of philosophy's most intriguing questions. How can we ever truly be certain of reality? Can we trust the world we perceive, or could it all be a dream, much like the ones we experience while sleeping? The butterfly dream taps into a familiar human phenomenon, the incredible realism of dreams. Many people have had dreams that felt so vivid, so complete, that they temporarily believed them to be real. In those dream moments, we rarely doubt the truth of what we're experiencing. Our minds construct stories, feelings, and sensations that seem entirely authentic. Only upon waking do we realize we were in another realm altogether. This paradox challenges us to ask, is there a clear distinction between dreaming and waking life? In his dream, Zhuangzi was a butterfly. He sensed the world as a butterfly would, through its unique lens, its fluttering awareness. Upon awakening, he was Zhuangzi again, a man. But if his experience in the dream was so wholly different, how can he know which of the two states reflects true reality? This sparks a deeper inquiry into our own experiences. Is there any flawless method to prove we are not dreaming right now? Zhuangzi's story also leads us to examine subjective reality, the notion that what is real is not fixed, but shaped individually by each of us. Everything we perceive, what we see, hear, and feel, is filtered through our personal consciousness, molded by our experiences, expectations, and sensory input. In this way, every person lives within a slightly different version of reality, crafted by their mind. Just as Zhuangzi's butterfly existed in a different world from the man, each of us may be navigating personalized, interpretive realities shaped by who we are. A common metaphor for this idea is the film projector. Each person's mind can be imagined as a projector casting a personal version of the movie of life onto the screen of existence. The events may be the same, but the emotional tone, color, and meaning shift from viewer to viewer. The butterfly dream. Paradox aligns with other philosophical explorations of reality and existence. One well-known comparison is René Descartes' assertion, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Descartes pondered whether he might be misled by a deceptive power, but concluded that his ability to question proved his existence, at least as a thinking being. However, even with this insight, he remained unsure about the reality of the external world. The paradox also resonates with ideas from Hindu philosophy, particularly the concept of Maya, the belief that the world we see is a grand illusion, masking the deeper truth beneath. Much like Zhuangzi's blurred line between butterfly and man, Maya proposes that what we take as real may, in fact, be an elaborate illusion. Both perspectives call into question the dependability of our perceptions and the limits of what we can know. In contemporary thought, Zhuangzi's dream parallels the brain in a vat thought experiment. Imagine a brain sustained in a laboratory container hooked to a powerful computer that provides it with artificial sensory inputs. This brain would experience an entire reality, sights, sounds, feelings, all created by the computer. It would have no way to recognize that its world is simulated. This modern scenario demonstrates how easily our senses could be fooled and how deeply our sense of reality relies on input we cannot always verify. Just as the brain in a vat would believe its world is real, we too might be unquestioningly accepting our experiences without knowing their true source. Zhuangzi's lingering question remains: if we cannot completely trust our senses, how do we know what is genuinely real? At its essence, the butterfly dream paradox doesn't attempt to give a definitive answer. Instead, it offers an open-ended reflection. Perhaps this uncertainty is intentional. Zhuangzi's philosophical approach often emphasized flowing with life's uncertainties rather than resisting them. He seemed to suggest that the mystery itself should be embraced, not unraveled. One possible lesson from the butterfly dream is that reality, whether viewed as fixed or fluid, is endlessly complex. Just as we accept our dreams while within them, our waking reality might also be one layer of a much grander mystery. Zhuangzi encourages us not to view this ambiguity as a weakness, but as a profound source of awe. There is a quiet elegance in imagining that we are all butterflies, drifting from one dream to the next, each seeming real in its own moment. And if our existence is, in some way, a dream, Zhuangzi implies we need not dissect it endlessly. Perhaps we are better served by savoring each fleeting experience, like a butterfly savoring the warmth of a flower or the whisper of the wind. Because whether we are butterflies or human beings, the act of being, however uncertain, is itself the most extraordinary enigma of all. Ultimately, Zhuangzi's butterfly dream isn't meant to solve the question of what is genuine and what is imagined. Instead, it invites us to appreciate the elusive beauty of perception itself. It reminds us that what we call reality might be less about certainties and more about the shifting dance of awareness, the strange, poetic, and unpredictable theater of the mind. The perception of time, a theory of temporal awareness. Have you ever observed how time appears to vanish when you're enjoying yourself, yet drags endlessly during the last hour of a tedious workday? This peculiar dynamic with time lies at the core of one of the most intriguing areas of human awareness, the theory of temporal perception. This concept investigates how our consciousness interprets and mentally processes the movement of time. Imagine time as a river steadily flowing. Although the current moves at a consistent rate, the way we perceive its passage shifts greatly depending on our circumstances, where we are in life, and what activities occupy us. This encapsulates the idea of temporal awareness, our internal subjective sense of time's progression, which often contrasts sharply with its clock-measured flow. Let's explore further through a relatable illustration. Think back to your most recent holiday. Those delightful days may have seemed to pass in the blink of an eye. Now recall your summers as a child. They likely felt as if they stretched on forever. This contrast is more than just sentimental reflection. It reveals a core function of how our minds interpret time. The theory argues that our sense of time isn't consistent like a ticking clock. Instead, it's highly adaptable, shaped by several captivating elements. One such influence is novelty. When we encounter unfamiliar experiences, our brains generate more vivid and detailed memories, which in hindsight makes the duration feel longer. This is why a first day at a new workplace feels far more extended than, say, your 100th day doing the same routine. Your brain works harder to absorb all the unfamiliar details. To illustrate further, scientific studies have observed that time appears to accelerate as we grow older. This isn't due to our internal biological rhythm speeding up. Rather, it's because as adults, we tend to encounter fewer fresh, stimulating events. When you're a child, Nearly everything is novel. Every day holds discovery. But by middle age, much of life becomes repetitive, making time seem to pass more rapidly. Another interesting phenomenon within this theory is what psychologists call the holiday paradox. Vacations often seem brief while we live them, yet feel long and richly detailed in memory. This occurs because your brain captures an abundance of new, stimulating moments, like compiling an elaborate mental scrapbook, which makes the recollection feel expansive, even if the lived time felt fleeting. Emotions also significantly influence our sense of time. During intense or threatening moments, such as a close call on the road, time can feel like it slows to a crawl. This is your brain kicking into high alert, processing every detail at a heightened speed, which creates the illusion that time has stretched. It's similar to increasing the frame rate on a video camera. Each second becomes densely packed with data. Perhaps even more fascinating is the role of attention in shaping how we perceive time. When you're completely absorbed in an activity, what experts refer to as being in a state of flow, time can seem to vanish entirely. It feels as though your awareness has stepped outside the current of time. On the other hand, when you're hyper-conscious of time, like counting down the minutes during a monotonous meeting, each tick of the clock feels painfully slow. These insights carry meaningful implications for how we approach life. Recognizing that new experiences expand our perception of time offers a compelling remedy to the sensation that life is racing past us. By seeking out the unfamiliar, trying different activities, acquiring fresh skills, traveling to new places, we can stretch our sense of time and make it feel fuller. Additionally, this knowledge allows us to intentionally shape our daily lives. If we desire time to feel more enriched and vibrant, we can break away from routine, engage in diverse experiences, or simply become more mindful of each passing moment. It's akin to being both the observer and the creator of your personal timeline, deciding where to focus your awareness and how to frame your experiences. As you reflect on these ideas, consider how your own experience of time shifts from one context to another. Take note of how this very moment may already feel different now that you're deliberately aware of it. Perhaps time isn't merely something that flows past us. It may be something we help mold through our attention, our intentions, and our openness to the new. While the clock will always move forward at the same pace, we possess extraordinary power over how that movement feels. In understanding the nature of temporal perception, we uncover a method for making our limited time feel more textured, fulfilling, and significant. The one soul hypothesis. Picture this. You're strolling home after a tiring day, lost in your thoughts, when suddenly everything fades to black. You blink in confusion, only to find yourself in an entirely unfamiliar place. Strangely, there's no fear, no pain, just a calm curiosity. A serene figure approaches, wise and composed, and before you can speak, they gently inform you, you've passed away. But instead of slipping into oblivion, you're about to uncover something extraordinary. This is the foundation of what's known as the one soul hypothesis, a mind-expanding narrative crafted by Andy Weir, the author best known for The Martian. In just a few hundred words, this story introduces a radical vision of life, awareness, and the essence of being, one that has resonated deeply with countless readers. At its core, this theory suggests a powerful and transformative idea. What if you are every human who has ever lived, is living now, or will exist in the future? What if every life across all of time is simply a different incarnation of you? According to this framework, every relationship, disagreement, or act of kindness is really an interaction with yourself in another form. The essence of the theory is about absolute interconnectedness, not just metaphorical or spiritual, but literal. When you greet a stranger, comfort a friend, or even argue with someone, you are engaging with other expressions of your own soul. The one soul hypothesis builds on themes found in many spiritual philosophies: where unity among all beings is a central belief, but takes it a step further. Every human being throughout history is simply you, living a different timeline. In this vision, opening a door for another person is extending kindness to yourself. Every conflict is a struggle with another fragment of your own essence. Through this lens, compassion, empathy, and forgiveness are no longer just virtues, they are acts of self-recognition and care. Weir's short story unfolds through a conversation between the recently deceased protagonist and a mysterious being, possibly divine, or perhaps just a higher intelligence. This being explains that Earth serves as an incubation ground, an egg, if you will, where your soul matures through countless lifetimes, each one a step in an ongoing evolution. Only after experiencing every possible life, from the most joyful to the most sorrowful, from the powerful to the powerless, will your soul be ready to hatch and become something greater, possibly something like this divine entity itself. The story's message is clear. Life's purpose isn't about fame, success, or status. It's about developing compassion, gaining insight, and understanding the vast spectrum of human experience. Your current identity is just one thread woven into a massive, intricate fabric of existence. If you treat each person as yourself in another form, then empathy becomes essential. Consider this: if you knew you would live every life that has ever been lived, wouldn't it make sense to be kind to everyone? After all, their triumphs and hardships are, in this theory, your own. The hypothesis encourages a radical shift in perspective. Prejudice, conflict, and injustice can be seen as internal misalignments, an inability to recognize the oneness within us all. This aligns with the principle of non-duality, a concept found in many Eastern traditions, which asserts that the boundaries between self and other are illusions. Non-duality proposes that the separations we perceive between individuals, cultures, and nations are mental constructs. The One Soul hypothesis offers a fictional yet deeply philosophical extension of this. Not only are we all connected, we are all literally the same being. This mirrors concepts in Hinduism and Buddhism, though with a distinctive twist. In Hindu thought, the Atman, individual soul, is seen as part of Brahman, the universal soul. Buddhism, on the other hand, teaches that the self is an illusion, and spiritual growth involves dissolving the ego. The One Soul hypothesis merges these ideas into a single, approachable concept, one accessible to readers regardless of religious belief. Beyond its spiritual implications, the hypothesis also resonates with certain theories in quantum physics and consciousness research. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that awareness might be a fundamental element of the universe, intertwined with the very nature of reality. While there's no scientific evidence supporting reincarnation or a shared consciousness, the One Soul hypothesis offers a compelling narrative experiment that ties together science, philosophy, and personal reflection. So, how might this idea reshape how we live? Imagine moving through daily life knowing that every person you interact with is another version of you. A rude cashier, an aggressive driver, or a difficult colleague, all just you, in a different role, shaped by different experiences. You might find yourself responding with understanding instead of frustration. Conflicts become opportunities for self-exploration. Instead of lashing out, you might ask, what part of myself am I struggling to accept here? Embracing this idea doesn't make life instantly easier, but it encourages a mindset rooted in patience, understanding, and peace. You're not just evolving for the sake of this current life, you're gaining wisdom for every future life and every future self. Though the One Soul hypothesis is a fictional tale, its emotional and philosophical impact lingers. It speaks to a deep human yearning to feel connected, to overcome the illusion of separation, and to see ourselves in each other. Even if we aren't literally the same soul, this story invites us to act as if we were. It reminds us of our potential for compassion, for growth, and for unity. In the grand narrative of existence, every interaction, every relationship, and every passing moment may be part of one expansive journey, a journey of awakening, understanding, and love stretched across lifetimes and dimensions. Illusion of reality, the simulation hypothesis. Imagine a world where everything, your environment, your relationships, even the breath you take, is part of an intricate digital illusion. You're a character inside a framework so convincingly lifelike, it mimics reality perfectly and even deceives your own mind. Welcome to the concept often referred to as the simulation hypothesis, a philosophical inquiry that challenges the lines between authenticity, deception, and control. Although popularized by the 1999 movie The Matrix, the core of this idea traces back to ancient philosophical traditions that question the very nature of what we consider to be real. While the film itself is a work of fiction, the profound questions it raises about awareness, digital influence, and human consciousness resonate with some of the most profound theories in both science and philosophy. At its essence, the simulation hypothesis poses a fundamental question. Can our senses be trusted? All that we know about existence comes from sensory input: sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. But if those sensations could be falsified, how would we know the difference? In a very real sense, each of us is already living inside our own version of a simulation, constructed entirely by the brain. Every feeling, the sensation of sunlight, the pleasure of a meal, is interpreted by our minds through electrical activity and chemical reactions, much like how computers read and respond to lines of code. So if those neural signals were replaced by synthetic inputs, our perception could still remain entirely real to us. In the Matrix, the human race is unknowingly trapped inside a digital environment. Their minds exist in a fabricated world, while their actual bodies are exploited as biological power sources. This fictional plot reflects earlier philosophical notions, such as René Descartes' theory of a malevolent force manipulating our perception, deceiving us into believing in a fabricated reality. Today, Descartes' evil demon could easily be substituted with hyper-intelligent machines capable of creating immersive illusions. This concept has historical roots far older than modern technology. One notable example is Plato's allegory of the cave. Imagine a group of people who have spent their entire lives shackled inside a cave, facing a blank wall. Behind them burns a fire, and individuals pass in front of it, casting shadows on the wall. To the prisoners, these shadows and the sounds they hear are reality. One day, one person breaks free, exits the cave, and witnesses the real world: sunlight, nature, people. He discovers that everything he once believed was real was only a shadow of the truth. Plato's metaphor is about the pursuit of enlightenment, the realization that true knowledge lies beyond what our senses alone reveal. The Matrix repackages this tale for the digital age. Instead of flickering shadows, we have a seamless computer-generated reality built to pacify and control its inhabitants. But the underlying message remains. Breaking free from illusion demands questioning our accepted reality. No easy task when falsehoods feel as tangible as truth. The simulation hypothesis is not just the stuff of science fiction. It has real-world advocates among thinkers and researchers who entertain the possibility that our universe is itself a synthetic creation. Philosopher Nick Bostrom is especially known for this line of thought. He theorized that highly advanced civilizations could generate simulations so complex that the inhabitants within them would be unaware of their artificial origins. If even a single civilization created countless such simulations, the probability that we ourselves exist in one of them becomes surprisingly high. Bostrom's proposal doesn't declare that we are living in a simulation, but it invites us to seriously consider the possibility. As virtual reality, AI, and simulation technology rapidly advance, we move closer to a future where such worlds may be indistinguishable from our own. If such simulations are possible, our very existence might be artificial, directed by unknown forces or systems we can't comprehend. Beyond existential questions, the Matrix delves into the nature of free will versus control. Neo, the main character, is given a choice: swallow the red pill and awaken to reality, or take the blue pill and continue living within the comforting lie. This moment symbolizes more than a plot twist. It embodies a deep philosophical debate. Are we truly autonomous, or are our decisions governed by larger systems? Within the rules of a controlled framework, our freedom might be more limited than we believe. This echoes deterministic viewpoints, which argue that our behavior is shaped by prior influences: our biology, our environment, the digital and social networks we exist within. Neo's decision to challenge his false world represents the universal human desire to break free and find authenticity. One of the most powerful aspects of this theory is its treatment of awakening. Philosophically, awakening signifies a breakthrough, a moment when one perceives the truth beyond illusion. For Neo, choosing the red pill marks this moment. He decides to face the harsh, uncomfortable reality, even though ignorance might be easier. The simulation hypothesis implies that awakening isn't about acquiring new facts, but reevaluating what we already believe. This idea aligns with spiritual teachings from various traditions: Buddhism's path to enlightenment, or Socrates' enduring belief that a life left unexamined isn't truly lived. The red pill becomes a metaphor for courage, the bravery to confront unsettling truths and abandon the safety of familiar lies. In modern life, the Matrix metaphor applies all too easily. Technology, mass media, algorithms, and cultural systems act as invisible frameworks influencing how we think, feel, and act. From curated social media feeds to targeted advertising, we are constantly being nudged towards certain values and behaviors. Much like Neo unplugs from his digital world, we too are invited to examine these forces and decide whether to follow or resist them. Ultimately, the Matrix leaves us with a timeless inquiry. How can we be sure what we call real is actually true? And if we come to doubt our reality, do we have the strength to seek truth, no matter how unsettling it may be? The red pill isn't just a movie prop. It symbolizes a choice each of us faces: the decision to pursue authenticity in a world built on illusions. For anyone who's ever wondered if life holds deeper truths beneath its surface, this theory serves as a reminder that the pursuit of understanding is both transformative and profoundly challenging. Just like Neo, we all have the opportunity to awaken, to question, and to explore the deeper structure of the reality we call home. The illusion of fulfillment, a life plugged in. Imagine a reality where every dream you've ever had, exploring every corner of the globe, finding true love, becoming famous, could be yours at the touch of a button. This scenario isn't pure fiction. It's a philosophical idea known as the illusion of fulfillment, famously introduced by thinker Robert Nozick in 1974. He used it as a direct critique of hedonism, the belief that pleasure or happiness is life's highest and only meaningful goal. But here's the twist. Once you're connected to this machine, you won't know it. Every moment will seem completely authentic. Every feeling will be vivid and convincing, but none of it will be real. This device would interact with your brain, generating artificial experiences that make it feel like you're living your ideal life. So the critical question arises: would you plug in? This scenario offers a deeply provocative challenge. If joy and satisfaction are the only things that truly matter, then what reason would we have not to connect to the machine? If it can grant every wish, eliminate sorrow, and deliver continuous bliss, wouldn't that be the ideal life? But Nozick posed this example precisely to test that very idea. He asked whether we might desire more than just positive feelings. do we also care about truth, authentic connection, personal growth, and the pride of overcoming real obstacles? Visualize your life as a script you can edit. Tomorrow, you could choose to wake up as a globally celebrated painter or a thriving business mogul. You could write a romantic story with no heartbreak or a career path with no setbacks. On the surface, it sounds like paradise, an escape from suffering, disappointment, or failure. This machine offers a world where pain doesn't exist. Dreams are always realized. Happiness is constant. At first glance, it seems like the obvious decision. After all, who doesn't want a life of uninterrupted delight? Yet Nozick believed that, upon deeper reflection, many people would hesitate to say yes. This machine may grant happiness, but it removes all the unpredictability and uniqueness that make life feel real. It replaces truth with imitation. It gives you joy, but takes away meaning. Why would anyone be reluctant? Because, Nozick argued, we desire more than pleasurable feelings. We yearn for real experiences. We don't just want the sensation of accomplishment, we want the accomplishment itself. There's a critical distinction between feeling like you climbed a mountain and actually grinding up the rocky slope, muscles burning, reaching the summit. In short, we desire truth. Experiencing love, success, or exploration in a simulated environment can feel hollow when we know it's not genuinely happening. Every emotion in the machine is pre-designed. The challenges, fabricated, the victories, already scripted, and if there's no risk of failure, can triumph still be meaningful? One major flaw in the experience machine is the absence of struggle. Real life involves adversity, pain, and difficulty. But those very moments are where growth and transformation happen. Nozick's machine forces us to confront an uncomfortable idea. Pleasure might not be enough. Perhaps it's the battles, not just the victories, that give life its depth. Think of a story where the protagonist wins every fight without ever facing real hardship. Would you find it compelling? Probably not. In the same way, a life without adversity might feel empty, lacking substance. The machine may provide satisfaction, but it removes the journey, the learning, and the stumbling blocks that make real success fulfilling. Another issue is the loss of agency. Once you're inside the machine, you're no longer making real choices. You've already set your story, and the machine simply plays it out. You're a spectator, not a participant. In contrast, real life is shaped by your choices, both big and small. Every decision we make carves out a path that defines who we are. Giving that up would mean surrendering your personal freedom, your ability to discover and shape yourself through the ups and downs of living. In this way, Nozick's thought experiment underscores our deep human need for self-exploration. Real life throws surprises, new opportunities, and the chance to reflect and evolve. The machine only recycles your current desires. It never allows for new discoveries, growth, or changes in direction. Ultimately, Nozick's experience machine pushes us to ask, what truly gives life its value? Is pleasure enough? Or do we also need truth, effort, independence, and transformation? The experiment offers no definitive answers. Instead, it prompts us to examine what we hold most dear. If you'd refuse to plug in, it could mean that you long for a life full of messy, beautiful, unpredictable reality. We crave connections that are sincere, accomplishments that are hard-won, and a life that reveals itself one decision at a time, not one that's been programmed for us. In the end, the question isn't whether the machine could make us feel good, it's whether feeling good alone is enough to make us truly feel alive. Infinity in print, the endless archive. Envision a library so vast, it houses every book that has ever existed, and every book that could ever be imagined. In this endless labyrinth of shelves, you'd stumble upon the complete writings of Shakespeare, but also countless variations where just one letter differs. Somewhere within, there's a volume that records the exact details of your life, from your first breath to this very second, and infinite others that tell stories of lives you might have lived, but didn't. This is the essence of the endless archive, a concept brought to life by Argentine author Jorge Luis Borges in 1941. His mind-bending short story presents the library not merely as a fictional setting, but as a philosophical construct that stretches our ideas of infinity, knowledge, and significance. Picture yourself stepping into this infinite archive. The bookshelves extend without end, stretching outward in every direction, tower upon tower, filled with texts, each one containing every conceivable combination of letters, punctuation, and symbols. Borges imagined every volume to be exactly 410 pages long, each with the same number of characters. In such a place, you'd find books containing revolutionary insights about the cosmos, nestled among nonsensical texts, and others that come agonizingly close to being coherent. This concept acts as a powerful metaphor for humanity's struggle to find meaning within a universe that often defies understanding. The library, unlimited in its content, presents a strange paradox. It contains every truth, every answer imaginable, yet most of it is indistinguishable noise, overwhelming and directionless. To appreciate the endless archive, one must explore its deeper philosophical implications, particularly around the themes of infinity, randomness, and the human pursuit of meaning. Borges was intensely curious about the boundaries of knowledge and how far human understanding could stretch. In the Library of Babel, he paints a vision of a universe that is literally a library, a limitless network of hexagonal rooms, each brimming with books. This universe is a tangible form of infinity, where all that could ever be known is already encoded, waiting on some dusty shelf. But this wasn't just a literary creation. It posed timeless questions that thinkers and mathematicians have wrestled with for generations. How can we navigate an infinite expanse of information? How do we sift out the truth in a reality that seems vast, random, and indifferent to our quest for understanding? At the core of Borges's library lies the unsettling truth of infinity. If every possible book exists, so do all the wrong versions. Somewhere in this maze lies a book that describes the universe with absolute precision, but it's lost among trillions of other books filled with meaningless strings of characters. Searching through such a place is like hunting for a single coherent phrase in an endless sea of babble. Even if the truth exists, it may be so deeply buried in nonsense that we'll never uncover it. This scenario mirrors a crucial insight about the nature of knowledge in a boundless universe. Information may be present, but meaning is often obscured. In a setting where anything is possible, discovering something reliable becomes nearly impossible. In this sense, Borges's idea feels eerily familiar in the age of the internet. Like the endless archive, the web grants us access to an overwhelming amount of information, some of it transformative, but much of it misleading or trivial. We now face the same challenge Borges anticipated: distinguishing truth from falsehood in a sea of overwhelming content. In his story, the never-ending corridors and countless volumes are also symbols of our inner drive to find meaning. Humans are endlessly curious. We're always searching for clarity about our identity, our place in existence, and the nature of reality. But the endless archive warns that even with access to infinite knowledge, most of it may remain undecipherable or irrelevant. One of the most profound elements of Borges's vision is how it reflects our insatiable curiosity and our desire to grasp the universe's secrets. Even though most books in the library are unintelligible, the inhabitants of that world remain determined to keep searching, believing that somewhere, truth must exist. The librarians in Borges's universe spend their entire lives combing through incoherent texts, piecing together fragments of understanding wherever they can. Their journey mirrors our own, an endless human pursuit of insight in a world that often feels opaque and unknowable. This parallels existentialist thought, where meaning isn't something we find waiting for us, it's something we construct. Just as the librarians seek understanding in the overwhelming archive, we too must carve meaning out of a reality that offers no guarantees. The Endless Archive challenges us to reflect on the nature of knowledge, chance, and purpose. Within its infinite volumes lie all truths, but also every fabrication, every meaningless ramble, and every alternate telling of every possible tale. This library is both a treasure trove and a trap, a beacon of limitless discovery, but also a reminder of how easily we can be lost in the abundance of possibility. Through this allegory, Borges invites us to consider that the pursuit of understanding isn't just about collecting facts or solving mysteries. It's about grappling with uncertainty, embracing complexity, and discovering meaning through exploration, even if we never find final answers. Like the tireless librarians of the infinite library, we're all seekers, striving to make sense of a boundless, chaotic cosmos. And perhaps it's in that very pursuit, in trying to find clarity within the confusion, that we begin to shape a sense of purpose for ourselves. In that way, the Endless Archive becomes a mirror of life itself, a vast, mystifying expanse where we, the explorers, must forge our own paths between the shelves. The paradox of the Endless Inn. Imagine a lodging facility that boasts an unlimited quantity of rooms. Regardless of how many visitors show up, there's perpetually space for one additional guest. This concept isn't mere fantasy. It's a compelling framework to examine the nature of infinity itself. First introduced by mathematician David Hilbert, the endless inn paradox pushes the boundaries of how we perceive spatial dimensions, numerical sets, and logical possibilities. Although such a structure can't physically exist, contemplating it opens up surprising and sometimes unsettling perspectives on the infinite. Visualize stepping inside Hilbert's Endless Inn, a majestic edifice stretching far beyond the horizon. The reception area bustles with visitors eager to check in, yet every room is occupied. How can you find a place if every chamber is already taken? This very situation forms the paradox. Hilbert's Inn resolves this by a clever maneuver. Because the inn has limitless rooms, there's always a strategy to create space for any newcomer. While the solution seems simple, it reveals deeply counterintuitive truths about infinite quantities and endless sets, challenging our conventional logic. So, upon arrival, you find all the rooms are claimed. How does the innkeeper accommodate you? The answer, with ease. The innkeeper asks the occupant of room 1 to move to room 2, the one in room 2 to shift to room 3, and so forth down the line. By shifting each guest over by one room number, room 1 becomes available for you, even though the inn was fully booked. What's more, this technique scales infinitely. Suppose an infinite bus filled with infinite passengers arrives. The innkeeper can move every current guest to a room twice their original number. Guest 1 moves to room 2, guest 2 to room 4, and so on, freeing every odd-numbered room for the new arrivals. By orchestrating these movements, the inn can always accommodate an infinite influx of visitors repeatedly. At the core of this endless inn paradox lies a fundamental truth. Infinity is not a single uniform concept. In mathematics, some infinities outsize others, an idea that initially feels bizarre. For example, the count of all natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, is infinite, but the infinity of all real numbers, including decimals between 0 and 1, is a larger kind of infinity. This insight, introduced by mathematician Georg Cantor, disrupts the notion of infinity as one monolithic whole, differentiating between countable and uncountable infinities. Hilbert's Inn symbolizes a countably infinite set, as every guest is assigned a sequential room number. However, if new guests required infinite space, say, each represents a unique decimal fraction between 0 and 1, no arrangement could fit them all without leaving some rooms vacant. This distinction clarifies that certain infinities encompass smaller infinities within them, a notion straightforward in theory, but bewildering in consequence. Hilbert's Endless Inn unveils that the laws governing infinite collections defy the intuitions we apply to finite realms. In daily life, if every hotel room is taken, no extra guest can enter without displacing someone. Yet in the infinite inn, these rules shift, teaching us about the nature and paradoxes of infinity. Infinity, as portrayed by Hilbert's Inn, offers endless potential, but it also births contradictions that challenge our fundamental understanding. For example, if the inn is perpetually full, is it ever truly empty? If guests keep arriving, does the inn physically expand? These seemingly absurd questions unveil the strange, counterintuitive behavior of infinity in practical contexts. More than a mere intellectual puzzle, the endless inn paradox carries real weight in mathematics, physics, and philosophy. In cosmology, for instance, the concept of an infinite universe prompts similar mysteries about space, matter, and the limits of human comprehension. If the cosmos is infinite, can it ever be full? And if there's always room for more stars and galaxies, what does that imply about our place within it? Philosophically, the paradox challenges ideas of existence and reality. Just as Hilbert's Inn can endlessly house guests, does this imply infinite possibilities in life and thought? Or does infinity suggest that boundaries are illusions imposed by our minds upon an unbounded reality? Hilbert's Endless Inn is a mind-expanding notion that allows us to grasp the unfathomable idea of infinity. Imagining what it means to run a hotel with limitless rooms offers a glimpse into the complex world of infinite sets, countability, and paradoxes that characterize advanced mathematics. This thought experiment stretches our minds beyond finite confines, revealing that in certain realms there is truly always room for one more. So next time you encounter a no vacancy sign, consider what it might take to transform that inn into a limitless space, a place where everyone is welcome, no matter how many arrive, a domain where familiar rules cease to apply.